Welcome back everyone to the channel. As you know, my name is Rav. Welcome again to another meta breakdown video. So this one, we're going over the Yeti Gaming in-person regional that was held on April 6th of 2024. This was a 21-man event. There was supposed to be more, but issues popped up, and it was a 5-round regional held at Yeti Gaming in St. Louis. So we're going to go ahead, jump on over to a quick little breakdown. Thanks to the amazing crew at Yeti, otherwise known as Andy. We have a deck list breakdown fully of what was ran at the event, how many players, how many people were on it, and we have our top 4 cut that got the prizing. So, as you said, 21 players. We had 3 of which on Fire Merlin, 2 on Luxem Xander, 2 Water Diana, 2 Fire Xander, 2 Wind Ally Crux. Water Allies Crux. This is the starter deck Lorraine version. They have 2 Wind Allies, 1 Water Merlin. The Water Merlin was Merlin Kingslayer. We have 1 Erupting list, 1 Water Xander Allies list, which was the Nats winner from NA. We have Wind Sylvie, Wind Allen, Water Luxem, which was a Water Serene Luxem list. And then we have Wind Vantage and a Fire Diana, possibly, if I'm not mistaken, Limelight's version that he ran at SCA Nationals. And then, so pretty much going over this meta that we have here, this seemed like a really diverse meta. Only 1 Erupting list was shown. We had 3 Fire Merlins. This honestly took place all before my other video came out, before I even looked at this and created this video as well. So this is something that can't take my tier list video into account of this. So we had 3 Fire Merlins, 2 Luxem Xanders, which was the 2 Chesko players of Rex and Noel. We had 2 Water Dianas, one of which was Bob, and a couple others as well. And then we had 2 Fire Xanders, like I said, the 2 Water Ally Crux, which is really interesting to bring. This is the new version of Water Allies that was running the level 3 booster box Lorraine that goes and gets a sword back like a drawn blade, and then you can keep on trying to use your drawn blade a little bit more value out of it. So if we are going to go ahead and again go into, say, Wind Allies, another fairly strong list, Matt brought this as well as another player. This is pretty much about the meta I expected to see at a regional. You're going to have those outlier decks as Wind Sylvie, Wind Allen, Wind Vantis. The Fire Diana is something sort of expected, but also not really. So it was a really good breakdown across the board of what we saw here. It sort of hit all the archetypes you would expect and then some. And then we have our top 4. The top 4 are the ones who got the regional invite. They got that Orb of Hubris, if I'm not mistaken. And what we have here, we have 2 Luxem Xanders. They took 1st and 2nd in Rex and Null. Congratulations to them for taking 1st and 2nd at the Yeti Regional. And in 3rd place, we had Water Diana. Water Diana was Noctimus's own Bob. Bob, congratulations. I've said it to you multiple times, but congrats on getting your first event win in topping. But I'm not going to be biased this video. And then we had 1 Fire Xander. So the conversion rate, we had 2 Luxem Xanders, 100% conversion rate into top 4. 1 Water Diana, which is a 50% conversion rate. And then the Fire Xander is another 50% as one of 2 converted into top 4. But so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and jump right into the deck list. We're going to break down those deck lists a little bit, have the little price shown on screen for those who are looking to maybe get into the deck, talk about the deck, maybe some matchups that I might have seen, and then we'll get into that further. So we're going to hop on over there right now. I pulled up Rex and Noel's list. I put them into one deck list. The only real difference in this list is that Noel is running the Wind Resonance Bauble instead of the Grand Crusader ring that Rex is running. But since they're pretty much running the same list, we're going to go over exactly what it is, what they might have faced, and talk about a little bit more. But looking at Rex's round number 1, Rex ended up playing into, if I'm not mistaken, a Water Allies list. I think it's the Water Xander list that is sort of favorable for the Serene list as a whole. So the way this list sort of works out is that it's running these Vanish from Sights as a tech card over the Resolute stands. Vanish from Sight was a really good card in addition to this deck because of the fact that it was dealing with the ally heavy meta, and Resolute Stand sometimes wasn't enough to really stall out the turns a little bit. And having Vanish from Sight as well also helps you deal with some of the Diana decks because some of them are greedy and not running Seeker's Rifle. So Vanish from Sight was a really good addition, gives your champion stealth, has to turn off an entire attack turn from your opponent, unless they have True Sight, which most of these allies deck do not run. So this card was brought in really good into the matchup. Rex ended up taking, like I said, the first game into him. You have your Luxem Sights to heal 3 every time you put them down in the memory. You have Light Reassault to deal 2 to try and clear board, as well as the Planet Explosives, Thieving Cuts as well. So overall, game number 1 is really favored into the Xander list. Pretty much was easy to take into allies. Into game number 2 for Rex, We did end up having the mirror of Rex versus Null. Rex ended up taking that 1-0. This is pretty much just a game that comes down to either who can hit the right amount of cards when they have it and not pulling the trigger too early if your opponent has a setup for their own Light Reaver's Assault kill turn. So it's mostly a little game of pretty much chicken, depending who's going to pull the trigger first and try and push that little bit of damage as much as possible. So you don't need just the Light Reaver's Assault win con, and hoping your opponent gets out of stuff like Luxem Sights, where cards like Gwaine becomes really good because you may go ahead and get in with Gwaine and then try and banish their Light Reaver's Assault, banish their Luxem Sights from their deck if they go ahead and put it down into their memory. So Gwaine becomes really clutch in these types of mirror matchups, and I think it's part of the reason why you see these Gwaine Luxem decks throwing Gwaine also for the water allies in the water mirror list, if not water in a whole, because you get rid of the Frostbind, Fracturize, and a couple cards that make your life really, really difficult. Into round number 3, we went ahead and had Rex go ahead and play into Bob. Bob is a Water Diana list, which was sadly, once again, not favored into this. It was Luxem was really good into these slower paced ally list, especially like Water Diana. Water Diana doesn't have the fast tempo turns like the Fire Diana to get to level 3 really quickly, put the Creeping Torments onto Xander. So it became like a really favorite matchup in the form of Rex. Talked about Bob was like, yeah, this is just one of my worst matchups I could have possibly gone in. And it sort of hurt him from that standpoint as a whole. So it was a rough round 3, or sorry, that was round 4. I'm one ahead of myself here. This was a rough round 4. Round 3 was versus Matt on his Wind Allies. And again, this is another matchup that's already not favored. Unless you're sitting into a situation where Matt is not getting enough allies and pressure on board to deal with, say, Luxem Sight triggers off of the healing 6 every single turn, it becomes sort of a rough position for allies to deal with it because in this case, Rex can either Planet Explosives, Thieving Cut, again, just like no different than the Water Allies list, to try and deal with the allies a little bit on board, enough to try and stall. You have Excalibur Cleansing Light in case the unit gets too big. You can go ahead and destroy non-target object to go ahead and get rid of that off the board as well. So there's a lot of situations where Rex can sort of turn the corner and stabilize if the Wind Allies list can't put up enough quick early damage and keep on applying the pressure before the Luxem Sight triggers become too much, and healing between 6 and 9 every single turn off of their triggers. And then into the final round, we did have Rex face into Fire Xander. Now this is sort of a matchup. I don't know exactly how it went, but this can be very favored into for Fire Xander. Fire Xander can get a lot of aggro early if they're able to get combo off really, really quickly before before Rex unlocks them. Go ahead and combo off. If you can try and push a 19-20 damage turn at once if you are Fire Xander. In this case, it puts Luxem a little bit on the back foot because sometimes Luxem, depending on who's going first and second, Luxem can't level up in time to get the Luxem Plate triggers online to start healing. But there is that point in this game, though, where Luxem does hit that turn, and all of a sudden, Luxem just fully stabilizes. There's a lot of X1, X2 units on the board. They have no issues dealing with the Light Reaver's Assault triggers. You have Planet Explosive, so they don't have to worry about playing a prep counter for it. Going to go ahead and trade if you really wanted, not ideal, but you have Dungeon Guide you can also trade into units, and you have a couple of different cards. Vanishing Sight, which also really slows the turns down, where Fire Xander can't get into high damage turns because the fact that you have stealth and nothing in Fire Xander plays has a true sight. They might play Sword of Seeking, but sadly it's not something that's really good into, you can't really use it into Luxem because true sight is a class bonus on Sword of Seeking. So in this case, that Vanishing Sights can really in the clutch in this matchup and can really turn the favorite into Luxem's gameplay as a whole. But this is, as we talked about before, Luxem is the tier 1 deck of the meta right now. If you can play it quickly, your opponents play quickly, this is the deck that's really good to bring if you're very well practiced on it. And congrats again to Rex and Noel for taking first and second place in the Yeti Regional to secure their invites and add a couple more into Chess Club. Moving on into rank number 3 was Bob. Bob ended up taking third into the entire Yeti online Yeti in-person regional. So into round number 1, Bob went ahead and played into Fire Xander, which is a really favorite matchup for Diana. Diana really goes ahead and stalls the game out pretty nicely. You have enough cards like Backstep to try and make some of this and draw some cards. You have cards like Karazi Trapper, you have Fracturize, Freezing Hail, Frostbinds, Frostform Paladins that can really stall the game out. You have Intercept, because it has Intercept, you can -3 attacks. Freezing Hail to kill a couple of units. Frostbinds, they're all in Rending Flame turns. You also have cards like Lunette that can go ahead and stall your opponent because any unit they play is going to come in tapped, which really lets you crimp the board. Especially you have cards like Trained Sharpshooter. You have Lurking Assailant and Gildas. Then a really interesting tech into this Water Diana list is you're running 4 copies of Seeking Shot, not the normal 2 or 3. So if you're really expecting an ally heavy meta, bringing in Seeking Shot is really good because it has a class bonus, can't be retaliated, has a level 2 True State as well for stealth units. And then on top of it, it gets 4 attack, total of 4 attack if you're going into an ally. So overall, this becomes a really strong card if you're facing something that's really ally heavy, which is what these Fire Xanderlists really have turned into. Granted, a lot of them are X2s and not a lot of X3s and mostly X1s. So the 4 damage doesn't come in too much of a factor, but it does help overall trying to clear the board from Fire Xander and really turning off their big turns. On top of running your regular 4 Song of Frost that you can go ahead and Song of Frost instead of Rending Flame if you don't have the Frostbind in hand to neutralize some of those big damage swings that Fire Xander wants to put out. And then as you're playing Water Diana, and this one is running the Blast Shot Pump. So since you're running the Blast Shot Pump, you can go ahead and kill 2 units with your attacks. You can really just turn the corner and stabilize with this list. And especially because of the fact that you are the good water list, that you're able to sort of deal with fire relatively easily. And once Fire's in, gets past that turn 4, turn 5, where they already tried to combo out once and couldn't kill you and apply enough pressure, Diana just runs away with the game at that point. Into Water Diana's second game, round 2, they went ahead and played a Fire Merlin list. This one can go either way. There is the chance that Fire Merlin can just overall outvalue Diana, because if you're running a Focus Flame, Flame Sweep, Incendiary Fractal, a list that's really killing a lot of different units on board, you can slow down Diana a little bit. But at the same time, this is still a Water Allies list, so you have your Scepter Lumina to go ahead and level up and deal 4 damage on top of it. You still have pressure with Gildas, and then you still have this overall hitting Diana on board, where Diana's going to start generating those Creeping Torments onto the Merlin, and every time they hit their level 2 draw trigger, they're going to take 2 damage from their Creeping Torments, and if you stack enough on there, you can go ahead and Unboltize them as well, deal a whole bunch of extra damage on their turn. So it's all about really this sort of the draws a little bit, keeping up your interaction and not letting your allies die too much to the Fire Merlin. Sometimes easier said than done, sometimes not really. It really depends on the Fire Merlin list that is being played in this case. In this one, you're running one with 1 Rending Flame. It's not the hybrid list, so you have 1 Rending Flame. You have 2 Sparkle Lights in there, a couple Devastating Blows, Incarnate Magistries, only 2x in there. 3 Rezo Flames, you still run a Tether in Flames, and 2 Incendiary Fractals. So it's not I don't think it's the exact nationalist that we saw recently. It's a little bit different take on it. So it's not as heavy into the kill package. So Water Diana and a Water Allies list can go ahead and stabilize and be able to deal with those turns as a whole and then take away the victory. Into round number 3 for Water Diana, it looks like they went ahead and played the Water Xander Allies list. This one it's a slog of a mirror match. I'm not gonna lie. This one can go honestly either way. If Diana though does want to level up quicker or pretty much go to level 3 more than the Water Xander list does. Water Xander list is mostly there to get the damage off the Scepter Lumina. But you don't really need it too much to go up to level 3 unless you need a turn where you can give yourself stealth for a turn to try and stem a little bit of the bleeding if you get sometimes buys you the extra for victory. But in this case, Water Diana goal is to get to level 3 Diana. So you're going to go ahead and put those Creeping Torments onto your opponent. You're going to have solve your Armble 5. And it's just an overall matchup. If you're able to resolve Lunette and your opponent's not, and stabilize some of your other cards like Gildas before your opponent, you have your 4x Seeking Shot expecting this mirror matchup, expecting the ally matchup. These 4x Seeking Shots come really, really, really in handy because you can start clearing your opponent's board for 4 damage attack swings, and you're making your opponent's burn, say, like a Song of Frost or anything like that they could have in their hand, just to deal with something like a Seeking Shot, which then leaves your Korhazi Trappers, your Frostborn Paladins, your Gildases, your Lurking Assailants, your Trained Sharpshooters can also clear up the board in that case if your opponent's burning Song of Frost for a Seeking Shot. And it's like I said, this matchup is really dependent on resolving something like Lunette. Having your opponent's units come in tapped really lets you go ahead and get those trades in your favor because of the fact that because your opponent's units come in tap, they can no longer swing and kill yours and get the beneficial trade on their end. So it becomes a really good matchup for Water Diana in this case, depending on how the matchup is sort of built in tech a little bit. And like I said, one of the major differences in this case is that this list is running the Seeking Shot. Granted that the Xander list is running something like a Thieving Cut and you have Drown Cut as well. But Seeking Shot really shows its true colors with the fact that it can deal 4 damage and also not be retaliated in this case because you are running Ranger. And then into round number 4 for Bob. Like I said, we talked before, it was facing the Luxem Xander list. A very unfavored matchup for Luxem Xander. For Water Diana. Apologies. Water Xander is not really favored into Luxem Xander. It was just a brutal game. Bob said he really didn't have a chance throughout the entire matchup, and it was a clean take from the Luxem Xander player. And then going into the final round, we end up seeing Water Dana into the Watermelon list. This was favored for Bob in this case because of the fact that Water Dana might be slower than Fire Melon, but it's definitely still in the case where it's a little bit faster than Watermelon. So you're dealing with a situation that you can go ahead and put the Creamy Torment on your opponent. You have Blast Up Pump to clear their board. Like Ghost of Pendragon can go ahead and get cleared. You can clear their Frostborn Paladin. You can clear their Shield Mates. You can clear their Bubble Mages. There's a lot of different cards that you go ahead and clear off the board as your opponent's really trying to set up an Arendite swing turn. In this case, you can go ahead and also play. You have your cards like Sea Sprite Diver that can eat some of their floating memory, and you're just applying more pressure than a Watermelon list is in this case. And the fact that you're adding Creeping Torment on top of it, that the Merlin player is just taking a lot more damage than they initially assumed, and ends up being really unfavored for Watermelon in this matchup as a whole, which ends up giving Bob the victory in the final round to secure number 3 in the regional. And then going into the final list, we have T-Girl Swag on Fire Xander. So this list ended up taking fourth, going with a 3-2 record. We did end up having a round 1 bye for T-Swag, which then brought him into round number 2. And in round number 2, they went ahead and faced Stenberg, not Stenberg, where Stenberg was on Water Lorraine, a Water Allies list, which can be sometimes a give or take depending on the match, depending on the draws. In this case, we do have the ally heavy list out of T-Swag, where you have the Arthurs, you're having a spicy tech and Kingdom Informant to give yourself another stealth unit, as well as floating memory if you need it. 3 blazing throws, you're running blitz mages. It's pretty much going back to DJs in the Florida regionals list a little bit, where you're running pretty much 12 versions of Gildas if you're able to. And as you even though this list isn't running Gildas, you still have a lot of very explosive turns to Rococo, Rending Flames, playing explosives, and pretty much you have a whole bunch of different pieces to combo off onto your opponent with just able to resolve an Arthur, which the matchup sites that can go either way depending who goes first. If the Fire Xander player is going first, if you're able to utilize and your opponent doesn't have a Song of Frost or Frostbind for your Rending Flames turn, can be really strong in your case and end up being in the fact that T-Swag did end up going ahead and winning this matchup. In the round number 3, they went ahead and faced Noel. As we discussed earlier, this was sort of a downswing of an event for Fire Xander. Fire Xander really has issues at a point if it can't get the kill turn by turn 3. Luxem Xander stabilizes. In this case, Noel took the victory 2-1. T-Swag Girl was able to take 1 game onto Noel, but sadly it ended up a loss in their pretty much in their matchups as a whole. And then moving on to round number 4, we face Chef Zach. Chef Zach was on Erupting, and this is a list that is teched for Erupting. This is probably one of the worst matchups Erupting could have seen in this meta. The fact that they're running 3 Scavenging Raccoons already in the main deck is not something Fire Xander usually does. It's a deck choice in there, expecting to deal with the Erupting meta that we were seeing for a little bit, as well as having an extra one in the sideboard here. You have a couple different Spurn to Ash if you really need to, but not too worried. You don't really bring it in this matchup, but you do have the Safeguard Amulet in the side. You have an Orbit Choking Fumes to make their combo turns cost a little bit more. So you have a couple different ways to deal with Erupting in the meta, and this is probably one of the most teched versions of Fire Xander that you'll see into the Erupting matchup, and ended up being a very favorable matchup for T-Girl Swag. I think T-Girl ended up going first in the very first game, won the game, lost game 2 to Zach, and in game 3 that they're able to take it as well, going first again. But ended up being a pretty much favorable matchup. It was a really good call on T-Girl's part. The fact that they brought in the Raccoons, expecting to see an Erupting here, or at least a heavy Erupting, even though there was only one, ended up being probably one of the worst matches that Erupting could face in the entire regional. And then into the final round, we have ended up playing versus the winner Rex. Again, it was another Xander list, as we already discussed. Luxem Xander was very favored in this matchup in this case, ended up taking a 2-0 victory over the Luxem Xander taking 2-0 victory over T-Girl's list and ended up winning the event. But I would like to thank everyone again for watching the video. I hope you all liked the breakdown of the Yeti in-person regionals that was hosted on April 6th. If you guys have any issues, any questions, any concerns, want to see more of this, anything different, or a different event that I might not have covered yet, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you can go ahead and see any more videos I post as they go up. But I want to thank everyone again for watching. I hope you're enjoying the series, and I'll be keeping more of this coming, and have a good one. Peace.